Okay, hello everybody. I think that we're now live back on the TEFL Development Hub's YouTube channel. We had a little bit of a break whilst work got in the way of life and CPD and everything, but we're back with a bang. And I'm really excited about today's session. So we were joined by Sam Burns from ESL Tree. He's going to be chatting to us in a minute about high efficiency language drills that really work. But first, oh, fantastic. So, I mean, before we start, Sam, do you want to tell us a little bit about ESL Tree? Because I know you've got loads of resources. The one I've been using the most is your vocabulary finder. So you can kind of type in a prompt. Say, for example, I'm looking for 10 high-level phrases or idioms about crime, and it comes back with this amazing vocabulary list. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about ESL Tree before we
Yes.
start?
Thank you very much, Teresa. So ESL Tree is my own personal business I started recently because I got sick of schools, too much stress. I actually had lots of burnout, and I had to leave China, leave the whole school system. And then I decided I'm going to make my own business teaching. And it started with just students, teaching students. And then I realized as I no longer could use my school curriculum and I had to make my own curriculum or find curriculums online, I found that there's like 100 online curriculums, but I wasn't comfortable using any of them because they were just, nah, not so awesome. So as I started making my own curriculum, and I had some friends that I also introduced them to teaching online, and then started giving them the curriculum, I realized that I need more tools. I need some resources, ways that I can plan faster and better. A friend introduced me to AI, and within about an hour, I realized that AI is like, at least the large language model version of AI, is exactly what language learners need and language teachers need, because all it is a language calculator. So I know this session isn't about AI, but I get a little excited about it. So the tools you'll find on esltree.com, if you go to the teacher toolbox, I think right now there's about 10 tools. They're designed to be usable by teacher or student. And the most popular one is the discussion question generator. So I've designed these tools to be ESL focused. If you go to ChatGPT, you're going to get these academic, high level, obscure language. But these AI models I've fine-tuned to be simple and low level to match language learners' needs. So the discussion generator question is great. The question generator is great. A vocab list generator, like you said, I use that the most as well as a curriculum designer. So I'll open up a new unit, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to teach them about the house, and then I'll just say items in a house, and then okay, I'll choose the ones I think I need, and then rooms in a house. Like that's obvious, but sometimes you forget about closet. It's like, oh yeah, I should teach them closet. So there's tools like that. There's some other stuff too. You can take a look.
Awesome.
But the majority of my business these days is actually the curriculum, what I use the tools to make. So I design an online kids ESL high efficiency curriculum. If you're interested, you can reach out. It's pretty cool. I'll show you how it works.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely share a link to the ESL Tree site. Do check out all of Sam's resources. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of the vocabulary generator. I work mainly with higher level students, but I find it really useful as a starting point. Like you say, thinking about the things that they might not know, those kind of lower frequency, but still words that we use. Whereas, like you say, sometimes ChatGPT will throw out this academic vocabulary, and you think they're never going to use that in everyday
Exactly.
conversation.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I
But
That reminds me of something. You said even though you're high level, okay, don't you should still use the vocab list generator because I designed it to be flexible for niche teaching as well. So I've actually made a video once when I modeled if you want to teach your students Pokemon gym battling vocabulary, it'll give it to you, and it's exactly what they use, like exactly what you need to talk about battling in gyms and Pokemon. That's how specific it can get.
awesome.
So it's okay for just planning regular lessons. But if you're a niche teacher and you really need to get into something specific, that's where it really shines because that's where the textbooks and the course books and the CEFR, they're useless when it comes to that.
Mhm. Perfect.
So
Great
give it a
tip
try
for
for
those
anything.
niches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. But today, Sam, you're going to chat to us about high efficiency language drills that really work. Okie dokie. Over to you.
All right, let's go for it. I'll just describe the title, why I chose it. High efficiency, the goal here is to maximize the amount of time you have in class. Get as much done with as little time as possible. If you're working at a university or a high school, public school system, not really the biggest thing on your list. But if you work at a business, if you're a freelancer, if you actually really want your students to get good results, then high efficiency lessons are really, really important. So it's about getting a lot done in as little time as possible. That increases the rates you can charge, and it increases the happiness your students have as they see their language growth. Of course, we're going to talk about language drills. We're going to talk a little bit about theory first, because I don't like the theory that much, but you usually have to have a little bit of a groundwork in theory. And then we're going to go into the actual drills that I use and that I encourage lots of other teachers to use that really work because I've seen the results they bring. They help students learn faster and better. One quick caveat to share before we jump in. I know that people from all over the world have different contexts, teaching contexts and teaching cultures. I learned how to teach in China, and the culture there is very cute and almost immature, very exciting and fun, even in professional situations. So I have gotten feedback that as a trainer, I treat other teachers like children. I really don't mean to. Like in China, it was normal and it was fine, but I understand if you're in some other country, probably Japan or something like that. I'm not trying to be demeaning or anything. That's just how I'm used to it because that's how we did it on that side of the world. So please don't take it personally. I really
Fine by
like you
me because I
though.
love being a student, so treat me like a kid. It's great.
Cool. So what are the aims, the learning aims today? I'm a teacher, so I like learning aims. There's three questions that I think we as teachers often face. The biggest one, okay, I won't spoil it for anyone, but why aren't my students producing what I taught them? That's number one. Another one, how can I fit in more language practice in less time? Always racing against the clock. And then, oh no, I didn't get to this activity. And oh, we didn't get to prepare for the test, or you missed your favorite thing at the end. And then three, what activities can I use to bridge the gap in my lessons? Because, sometimes you're teaching and then all of a sudden you just do the next step and you feel like, oh my goodness, that was a big jump. And you lost all your students and they were keeping up with you and all of a sudden they just can't. They just can't do it anymore. They don't know what's going on. Uh, we're going to try to address these in different amounts in this training, in this webinar. That's what I'm going to try to answer with these drills. Quick question, Teresa, for you personally, since you can respond, of these three, one, two, or three, what do you feel the biggest in your teaching?
Ooh, I mean, probably number one, because, and we were chatting about this before we started about like I teach higher levels, and I find that sometimes you kind of assume more that they're going to use new language because they know they should. But actually, they still need that really explicit instruction to use those new structures because they're so used to the language that they've been using and they've been using perfectly for however many years. And so trying to extend and expand their grammatical range, their lexical range, I find that sometimes like I need to really say to them, use this new word. I had a class yesterday and I was like, right, your challenge for the next 2 weeks before I see you again, use likewise to respond to somebody because it's
Mm.
such a great word. So yeah, so for me, definitely number one.
Mm. Awesome. Me as well. That's why I was going to spoil it. I was going to say that's the biggest thing in my career for teaching that I just need to keep working on. So we're going to dive into the motivation, why we're going to use language drilling in our lessons. And I believe that drilling is what takes us from presentation to production. If you're familiar with ESL terms, presentation is usually when you're giving some type of language to them and explaining what it means. Production is when they're using it. So let's look at it in a graph. On the bottom left, we have the teacher, he's green. In the top right, we have the student who is blue. And this is a just an illustration of how at the beginning of anything with students, and especially language, at the bottom, the teacher is the only one that knows the language, and the student knows nothing, okay? And the teacher has to put in all of the input. So this is a graph of input. The teacher does all the work at the bottom. By the time you get to the top, the student is now doing all the work, and the teacher's not even present. So at the bottom, you're going to have the planning stage, right? The teacher decides, hey, this is what I'm going to teach. And then at the top, I'm going to call it post-production. If you want to argue with me, it's fine. This is when after the class is over and they've gone into real life, and now you're not there to help them anymore, and they have to do 100% of it. As teachers, our job is to get them there. And not only to get them there, but to get them there as fast as possible, especially in 2025, where yeah, everything's just going so fast. Everyone wants to learn language overnight. Okay, so after you plan, you come into the lesson, then you do what's the presentation stage. You're teaching some new language. So let's take this chart and apply it to just a specific language point. You're presenting. The student is actively listening, maybe taking notes. They're doing a little bit. Unfortunately, what I see in so many lessons, a lot of the lessons I've observed as a trainer, a lot of my own lessons when I was first starting out, is we present language or present a skill, and then all of a sudden we jump to what we call the production stage. The production stage is when they're using what you've taught them in a as lifelike as possible situation. So let's say an example with past tense verbs. We say here's a list of verbs. When they go into past tense, they're irregular. It's like this. Okay, everyone read the words. All right. Now, Johnny, stand up and tell us a story about what you did last week. It's like it's painful when we think about it because we've done it so many times. And guess what? They almost always fail. The only one that succeeds is the guy that already knew the stuff. And you think, "Oh, you're a good student." No, no, no. They just already knew it. So we really need to not make such a big jump. And that's where drilling comes in. Drilling is repetitive, focused, meaningful practice, which we'll get into a little bit more. So I would say first, after a presentation, we use a controlled practice activity. This is where the answers are guaranteed. It's like there is a right answer and there is only one right answer. Okay, this is a way it's easy to check and it's easy for them to complete some type of activity. You free it up a little bit. Maybe there's another activity with multiple correct answers, but it's still very clear when they make mistakes. And then you go into something that's more free, sometimes called freer practice, where the activity it's more open-ended. There's lots of different options. But in these three parts, you can make it two if you want. There's still high repetition. That's what we're going for, so that we can build a stepping ladder, a staircase. There we go. Build a staircase for our students to get to that production stage. Okay, that's just theory. I want to make it a little bit easier to understand with some practical example. So let's say the teacher chooses agreeing and disagreeing. Then the class starts and the teacher presents the lexis necessary, that's vocabulary, chunks of words, stuff like that, to agree and disagree. And then the students are going to do an activity where they choose which one is used and when. Close, it could be like a paper close gap fill activity. Then you give students different quotes and they have to link them in pairs. So if it's agree and disagree, then someone will say like, hey, iPhone is the best phone ever. And the next person says, are you kidding? Have you ever I don't know, like have you ever researched that? I don't know. It depends on what lexis you're talking about, okay? And then they'll find out what connects them. You could probably have multiple options here. So as long as there's any correct connection, it's fine. Another activity could be now you're not giving them anything. You're putting them in groups, and then one by one, they'll just share a one-line idea, like I like summer best, or summer is the best season. And then they take turns responding to him with that vocabulary they were just learning. It's probably still on the board so that they're actually using it, like you're saying, Teresa. Sometimes they don't use it. No, no, no. During this activity, you use these words. As soon as you take away the force of using the words, it's no longer a drill. It becomes more of just conversation practice. That's great. That's a different skill. But then a week from now, they won't even remember what you taught them. So we're forcing them to use those vocabulary items, those lexical items. Then moving to a production type activity. Now you go to a debate of some, if you want to, okay, in pairs or in groups or as a class or all three, depending if you have 2 hour lessons. I liked that when I had 2 hour lessons because I could really have like in-depth practice. Uh, Again, we often will present how to agree and disagree and then all of a sudden organize the class into a debate. And we're jumping all these stages. They're not ready. But I don't need to tell you that because you've experienced it. And then class is over, they go home and they fight with their significant other. Hopefully, you've equipped them to win the argument.
Awesome. One thing that I love about this is that freer practice, because I think you're right as well that we sometimes jump into the production of this, much bigger task, whereas actually just doing something like, okay, say one sentence, agree or disagree. Next person, say a sentence, agree or disagree. And it is they have the opportunity to practice that language, but it's not turning it into this huge 5 minute conversation. Great, like it.
Cool. But stop before we continue. I thought language drilling was bad. I engage in a lot of discussions online with fellow trainers and academics and then just lots of just normal teachers. And one thing keeps coming up, and I was taught in TEFL that drilling is bad, it's old school. I was taught that, let's look at these four. It's Stone Age, right? It's so outdated. It's ancient, and then it's a broken practice method. I was told it doesn't work. We know by now that it doesn't work. I was also told that research proves drilling to be ineffective. And I've also been told that drilling is for babies, is for children, for child ESL. I'm not going to jump into all of these, okay? But there is an answer for every single one. Maybe Teresa, you can choose which one you've heard the most. I'm sure you've heard some of these. Which one is biggest?
I mean, let's go with the last one that it's only for kind of kids and low levels and yeah,
Hmm.
it's for baby.
Okay. Yeah. So uh, the fact that it works for kids is proof that it works for adults because we have the same brain that works on the same processes. Kids learn things by repetition, and then they're able to use it because they've repeated it. Adults are the same. Now, here's the problem. uh, because we use drilling so much with kids and we use very basic, very simple, often childish drilling techniques, by the time you become an adult, you feel like, don't treat me like a baby. I don't want to go through the flashcards while you wear like a goofy unicorn hat. Okay. That's true. Okay. So childish drilling is for children, but who says we have to make it brainless and boring drilling for adults? We'll see today that some of the drilling techniques you're going to get involved in, you're going to get cognitively engaged, not even realizing that I'm just making you say the words over and over. So it really is a matter of how you drill. I totally get it. Businessmen don't want to be treated like kids. So it's your job as a teacher to, okay, I know that they learn through repetition, and I know they don't want to be treated like babies. So how can I cause them to repeat it and still feel like they're, more than 10 years old? The, to quickly deal with the others, just because it's old doesn't mean it doesn't work. We still cook with fire. I have a gas grill in my house. We've just improved how we cook with fire. We're going to talk about doing it better, doing drilling better today. So the stove I use in my house is not like the ones they did 3,000 years ago, like outside with a pot. It's way better, but it's still cooking with fire. It does work. It does work. I'm learning my fourth language, and without it, I couldn't learn any of it. And then the research thing. If you look closely at the research, you'll find that they compare things like a staging, well-planned, super in-depth and complicated 30-minute activity compared to a 5-minute mindless flashcard drill. And it's so unfair. It's so unfair to do it that way. And also, what teacher has 4 hours to plan a 30-minute activity? We often do drilling because we just don't have time to plan anything else. I would say that we need both. We need the simple drilling activities and we need the higher cognitive activities. We get from one to the other. It's not either or, it's both. So what is the right kind of drilling? On the left side, this is not the right kind of drilling. That's the wrong kind. On the right side, we're going to fix it. Mindless drilling. An example of mindless drilling is when a teacher will show the items and say them. Pen, battery, I'm just picking up what I have. Mug, okay? For presentation, that's fine. They need to hear what it is. But if every time I want you to say pen, if I say pen every single time, pen, 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 you could literally close your eyes or play on your phone and just repeat what you hear. Pen, pen, pen. You're not thinking of a pen. You're not actually processing it. It's useless drilling. Okay. So we can fix that by making it more mindful. That to make it mindful, the students need to be paying attention to accomplish the task. It's really simple, guys. You just show the pen and you don't say anything. Now it's actually useful because their brain sees the object and they have to produce the English or whatever language you're teaching, right? So make it mindful where the student has to pay attention to accomplish it. Oftentimes, drilling can be motiveless. Let's say you get to the end of a lesson and then it's like, oh, there's 5 minutes left. Everyone, read these verbs, these irregular verbs in pairs 10 times each. That does have some benefit, to be honest, but I prefer mapped drilling. You're using the drilling in your lesson for a specific purpose to prepare your students for the next step. So let's say you have the same piece of paper with irregular verbs, then you're going to give it to them right before an activity where they tell stories. So you give them the list, you've already taught the meaning, okay, and you say in your pairs, read the past tense words to each other, and then when you're done, make one sentence each with each word in the past tense with each other. So they're using every single one. Do it 3 times, depends on how much time you have, depends on your students and all that kind of stuff. And then with a different partner, you just share yesterday's activities with in one paragraph with 3 of those words. So now they've said the words, they've made sentences with the words, now they make a paragraph with the word. That would be mapped drilling. You're using it to accomplish something. And then sometimes drilling can be meaningless. An example of this would be, let's say you have a sentence and the students have to copy it 5 times. And it's just a sentence, a blank sentence on a page. It says the cat is in the hat. The student really doesn't have to, the student doesn't have to know what that means. They can just copy it. The cat is in the hat, the cat is in the hat, the cat is in the hat. To make it meaningful, you need to connect it to something. So you can take the same activity as a writing activity that's helpful. Let's say it's a sentence activity, which could be grammar focused. Have a picture of a cat in a hat next to the first sentence. The cat is in the hat. Then by the second line, you have a picture of a cat under the hat. And that now they're not just copying it mindlessly. They have to think, okay, what word in the sentence is changing? What is it changing to? And then does it change the sentence at all? And then you have another picture and another picture and another picture. Now they're actually meaningfully drilling. Okay, so don't do mindless, don't do motiveless, don't do meaningless drilling. I also hate that. I'm fully with you. But the other stuff is really useful. So let's get into those drills. Okay, so that was the theory. Now we're going to talk about drills you can use. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what drills I'm going to share because there are hundreds, right? And you can kind of reflavor them in many different ways. So I chose drills that are novel enough to be new to hopefully most teachers, or at least somehow new, but also easy enough to be done by a new teacher. Like you started teaching this year, you should be able to do all these drills effectively. We're going to start with lexis drills, two of them. A lexis drill is a drill where you have them produce the just the vocabulary items. It's for pronunciation, it's for long-term memory, um, yeah, and also for understanding. So the first one's called a memory drill. It's going to be a silent memory drill. So I'm going to need Teresa for this one. Let's say we already taught these vocabularies, so you know what they are. Just quickly look at the words so you know what they are. Law, judge, detective, evidence, prison, court, criminal. Okay. Do you remember?
Ooh, yeah, I think.
Yeah, we're pretending like we already learned them. I hope we've
Okay.
already learned these words. So I'm going to point to three of them. And when I'm done, you can say all three. Are you ready? Go.
Prison judge, and was the last one court? I didn't see whether
It
late.
was. Yes. Ding, 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 ding. High five. Okay, then we'll do it again. Oh,
Evidence, criminal detective.
as criminal evidence detective, minus 5 points. Ah.
Uh,
Okay, so it's very basic, but it works. You have to pay attention. You're even developing their memory at the same time. The first time you teach this, you can do this with kids. I do it with kids, and you can do it with adults. I just did it with an adult, and it was a little challenging. The first time, I would just do one.
Judge.
Good. Now, two. Okay, I'm talking like a kid, right? Two. You're 5 years old. Mm, mm.
Detective judge.
Yeah, and now they know how the activity works. You can do it with the whole class. Oh, yeah, and you can increase the difficulty as far as you want until they can't do it anymore. That makes it fun. When I do this with kids, I go up to 7 or 8. But it depends on the student, right? When it's that student, you get to 3 or 4, and it's like, okay, let's move on because this is hard. But they've practiced them all. But then you get those students you can push, and then you can go up to 7 or 8 times, and they love it. And then when you go to the next activity, it's like they've learned those words for years, even though they were new 5 minutes ago. So that's a memory drill, the silent memory drill. There are so many versions of memory drills. Oh, I also wanted to say, once your students know how to do this, the first time you could do it as a class on the board. After that, you can just have them open up their textbook or you can hand out papers and then they do it with their fingers in pairs or in groups to increase the amount of production. Okay. Another great one for lexis, we're just focusing on words, on vocabulary, is what's missing. Again, there's so many ways of doing what's missing. It's where you show everything but something, and they have to figure out what that something is. And this one's a patterns. So, very easy. I'm just showing you how the activity works. As a student, Teresa, will you please read the whole pattern?
Law, prison, law, prison, law, prison, law, prison.
Ah, ding, 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 ding. Let's do another one.
Judge, judge, detective, judge, judge, detective, judge, judge.
Yes. Wow. You must be an elite English speaker. Last one.
Court, evidence, criminal, criminal, court, evidence, criminal, criminal.
Perfect. 5 points.
Ooh.
So this one is similar. You're getting lots of production. Now, I'm not putting the words on the screen, okay? So that means every time they see the icon, they have to think of the meaning and produce it. If you want to, if they need the support, you can show and remove the words if you're using a PowerPoint. This I've made 2D patterns. I haven't gone 3D yet. That's just kind of a waste of time. But like a 2D pattern grid, you can have patterns that mirror, like nine on this side, nine on this side. They have to mirror it. You can do so many different types of patterns. And it always works for me. Lots of production. Again, you don't want it to get boring, okay? So we're not going to do one missing item every time. Oh, I should probably reveal the answer. We're going to increase the challenge until we get to the end of the activity before we switch to a new activity. Okay, 2 lexical drills. How are we doing so far? Too fast,
Perfect.
too slow?
I'm having fun.
Okay, good. Next, we're going to look at structure drills. Now, most people know about lexical drills. Okay, it's like, oh yeah, flashcard drills, right? Uh, Very often we don't take the next step and drill structures. When I talk about drilling structures, I'm talking about sentences or grammar structures that have a correct form, and we're drilling them in that form. This is great for if you're reviewing the vocabulary. It's still great for vocabulary, but it's better for accuracy, training them to speak accurately, training them to speak fluently. By having structure drills, they don't get stuck thinking, okay, how do I build this structure again? When they're out, they're at the bank trying to open a bank account, and they're like thinking, what am I trying to say? And then also pronunciation. We often get students that, or at least in China, that's how it was. And if you can use structure drills, they're going to imitate the way you say the sentence, and then they're going to improve their intonation and sentence level uh, pronunciation. The first example we're going to look at, I call speed run. Get rid of my laser pointer. And this one's going to be with the stopwatch. I had to build a little PowerPoint stopwatch just for the sake of screen sharing. If you're teaching online, you probably have a stopwatch tool. You could use your phone if you're online. It doesn't work so well. Or just put a timer on the screen. The way the speed run stopwatch activity works. This one's geared more towards kids, but it works for adults if it doesn't look like cute cats. Although to be honest, I would use this with my adults, absolute beginners. There's some type of path they have to get through the path in as little time as possible. Now, you might actually have board games that you play with your students, and those are great, but highly inefficient. If you could just take a board game, put them in pairs, and time each other, and instead of rolling the dice and moving, they have to finish every single square and get to the end and hit stop. Then they're going to produce so much more language in a tenth of the time. Yeah, it's not as fun. But hey, after that, if there's time left to fill, then you can play the game the slow way. Okay, so it can be like a board game or just something you put on the board like this. So I'm going to start the timer, and as a teacher, I'm going to set the goal. Okay, I'm going to set the standard. The seconds are on the bottom. I'm moving left to right. I have to say every sentence correctly. Okay, so ready, set, go. The cat is in the box. The cat is under the box. The cat is between the boxes. The cat is next to the box. The cat is on the box. The cat is behind the box. The cat is in front of the box. The cat is near the box. The cat is above the box. 20 seconds. Okay, as a teacher, I'm going to do it slower to give my students something to beat. If it's a naughty student, maybe I'll do it as fast as I can just to put them in their place. But I'm going to say that Teresa's a good student and she doesn't need to be put in her place. Are you ready to do this structure drill, Teresa?
Okay,
Okay, can you beat 20 seconds?
hopefully.
Ready, set, go.
The cat is in the box, the cat is under the box, the cat is between the boxes, the cat is next to the box, the cat is on the box, the cat is behind the box, the cat is in front of the box, the cat is near the box, the cat is above the box.
Oh, 16. Oh, my sense of self-worth just plummeted. My student beat me. Perfect. So this is a very simple version of this. Okay, you can get as complicated as you want. Again, depending on your students and your level. You can replace the pet, you can replace the box. You can even, if you're teaching a unit, this could be a lesson one structure drill. The next lesson, you change all the pets to be different. So that's how many? 10 different pets. And in lesson three, you're going to open the class and it's different pets and different objects. Then it's a real challenge. And they're actually, you're taking them step up, step up, step up. If it's higher level, it could be, even though dot 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 blah 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 pair. So they know they're supposed to say, even though it's raining, I still want to play outside. You'll just have raining and play in one circle. And then the next circle will be, hungry, uh, not eating. You decide what you put in your circles. Another one, this is a simple drill called use it. And we're going to use a scene to do use it. No time on this unless you want to. The goal of this drill is they just use everything twice or three times, depending on, their level and how much they need to use this. So I'm going to put this on the board and then in pairs, they have to make the sentences every single one twice. So I'll do it all once, and then Therese will do it all once, and then we'll pretend like we did it twice. We're not allowed to make the same sentence. Otherwise, that's not really practice. So, do you want to go first?
Okay. The white cat is on the pink chair.
Go, 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 all of them.
All of them. The dog is under the cat. The parrot is kind of next to the plant. The woman on the floor is between two cats. There's an orange cat in the box. The small dog is near the man, and the pink chair is behind the woman.
Perfect. And then, haha, I got you. I'm not going to do it for the sake of time. You guys know how it works. I'll say blah blah blah. Did it. Now the reason you have a picture for this is because there are correct and incorrect answers. If she were to have said the man with the green shirt is between the white cat and the orange dog, then we have something to talk about. We have a correction to make. Okay, so yeah, answers are visible. Everyone does it. As a teacher, you're still monitoring, you're still checking for mistakes, boarding them or interrupting to fix them, fixing them afterwards. You're still teaching. So there were two structure drills, and then uh, these are dialogue drills. This is the next step after a structure. Not every structure comes with a dialogue, like a two-way dialogue. It could be a monologue, where you have multiple sentences in a row. So dialogue or monologue drill, it's up to you. What I like about dialogue drills, so there's a question response, is that you're now training them to quickly react to specific types of questions. Language learners of all kinds often struggle to know what answer goes with what question or what exactly is being asked. So when you use dialogue drills, you're not, maybe they know the right answer, but then they use it at the wrong time. You're training them when to use that answer at the right time. Conversation does this slowly. And to be honest, if you have an enjoyable conversation, how many times are you going to ask, where is the cat? Like, if you did that twice to me, right, in real life, I'm like, dude, let's move on. Who cares where the cat is? So, conversation doesn't work for everything. That's where dialogue drills come in. Speed dating. I think everyone knows this one, but a few people might not. Okay, so speed dating is when you have pairs change quickly over time and they have a task to do every single time. I couldn't ignore this one, even though I tried to be novel because it's just so good. This is going to be a present perfect and past simple speed dating activity. What I'm going to do is if I'm online, I will show them how to do the activity with a partner. So let's say I'll do that with Teresa, but in a second. And then after I've modeled it with the student, then I'll take two students and have them do it together. And if they do it correctly, then I'll ask the rest of the class, did they do it right? And if everyone says yes, then I know, okay, they know how to do this activity. Then I'm going to put them into breakout rooms. Depending on the platform you have, you can have breakout rooms that like rotate partners, or you just have to create and then uncreate and create create and uncreate breakout rooms multiple times to get this speed dating activity to work. If you're offline, it's really easy. The simplest way is just to say, find a new partner. You're not allowed to talk to the same person twice. 2 minutes, go find a new partner. You could get complicated and arrange the tables, maybe in a long line or in a circle, and then there's inside of the circle and outside of the circle. Okay, so how it works is they're going to get a card for every partner. That'd be one card on every table. If you're online, it's not necessary. You'll just change the slide every time you make a new group. So there'll be one thing on the screen. This speed dating example is starting with the present perfect question, followed by past simple questions. So let's model it to our students, Teresa. Hey, Teresa, let's do the black one. Have you ever fallen down the stairs?
Yes, I have.
Oh, when did you do it? Not when have you done it? When did you do it?
When I was 17,
Did you get hurt?
I did. I hurt my bum.
Ouch. Did you go to the hospital?
Not for that, but I went for physio afterwards.
Ah, okay, good. And then, so I just did the one. You can ask me the other. One of the other.
Uh, Sam, have you ever broken your arm?
No, I haven't.
That's very good. Have you ever broken another bone?
No, I haven't, but I have chipped a tooth. That's the
Ah.
closest I've gotten to breaking a bone.
And when did you chip your tooth?
I was in high school.
Mhm. And did you go to the dentist straight away?
No, and you can still see the chip if I get really close to the camera. I threw a ping pong paddle at myself on accident.
Oh,
Yeah. So with speed dating, I didn't clarify. You can set a 2-minute timer, depending on the students and the level. If it's the first time they're doing it, maybe three. And then once they know the activity, you can bring it down to two because they know how to do it. Once the timer dings, they all shift, new topics, new partners, and repeat, repeat, repeat. You can do it maybe 5 times. That's about 15 minutes, including everything. And now all of your students have now asked at least 5 past present perfect questions and 10 past simple questions. More likely, they've asked 10 and 20. Okay, that's speed dating. Please do it with a timer. You want to accomplish this quickly so that you can move on to the next more, just move on to more stuff. Another great example of dialogue drills is jigsaw. There are lots of different ways to do jigsaw. I'm going to use a table. So to prepare a table of information, and then you split it into A and B. And a jigsaw activities are where one person has half the information and the other person has the other half. Or it's more like, 66%, 66%, and then you have to find the other 33%. It can be a written, it's usually like a paragraph and a paragraph. Here's a table. Some people call it information gap. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to hand it out. But again, this is the drill part. We've already presented the necessary questions. So they've already learned the form of how much do tarantulas weigh, how fast do tarantulas go, and how long do tarantulas live. They already know that. So we're going to split into pairs and we're not allowed to look. And then we ask the questions to try to fill it in. Do we need to model this one, Teresa?
I think we're okay because I think, yeah, like you've
I think it's
explained it.
explanatory.
So, yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Then you check the answers at the end. Yeah. So this is great because every question is going to get asked more than once. To fit it on the page, I only have two gaps per person per column. If I were to do this in class, again, depending on the level and if they've done it before, I would push it to 6 or 7 so that they can have that higher repetition. And then you're not going to wait for everyone to finish. You'll wait for most people to finish and then check answers. And then if you still want to take drilling further, which you should, you can get into freer practice drills. So you're not just doing vocabulary and structures and dialogues, you're now doing activities in high repetition. The way I see a freer practice drill is it's a more lifelike, um, more flexible language activity that you repeat multiple times in as little time as possible. This helps them be confident when in real life and when they have to do multiple interactions in a row. You know, when people learn language, they get quick with vocabulary at first, and then maybe they get into the store and it's like, okay, how much is this? 284. How do I buy it? How do I buy? That's a dumb question. Bad example. I should have written out an example for this one. The point is, once they get in the situation, maybe they're good for like two interactions and then they start falling behind. And they're like, okay, I can't take it anymore. What's going on? And even if the fourth question is something they already know, they haven't practiced to interact so much without teacher support. It's just like teacher me, teacher me, teacher me, teacher me. Now it's like you, and maybe with a partner, you, him, you, him, you, him, you, him. Okay. Oh, and I just want to say, we often make the mistake of getting to the end of our lesson, and now the climax, the final moment is a role play. And we do a 10-minute role play, and then, oh, time's up. There's no feedback stage, or maybe you just have a quick feedback stage, and they don't have time to actually practice the things you just told them they did wrong. End of class. I'm very much against that because it just doesn't work very well. I understand that I used to do that. Now, the better way is you plan to, at the end of class, even if it's in those 10 minutes, you have two role plays that are only 3 minutes each with feedback in between so that they can practice what they've learned. And then you give a second feedback at the end. So even twice is better than once, but I would push it 3 or 4 times if you can. So they're getting that lots of role play practice. One example of this is going to be a mingling survey. This one's about opinions. We often use this as a warmer, which I get. It's fine to use it as a warmer or as an icebreaker, but there's a much more powerful use, and it's for this freer practice drill. In this example, I'm not giving them the questions. They should know the questions. We've been talking about it for an hour. We did presentation, we did some simple drilling, some more complicated drilling. Now they should know the questions. It should be in here. So I'm giving them the opportunity to use what's in here. This is going to be for a high level class. You see it's fashion, brands, hobbies, politics, entertainment, sports, food, and religion. Green is easy to talk about. Blue is difficult to talk about. In this lesson, I'm imagining that you've been teaching them how to talk about opinions in a non-controversial, non-offensive way so that you can not offend people when you talk about those difficult topics. Do this whatever way you want. The way I would do this mingling survey with opinions is um, the students walk around, they each have one piece of paper, and they ask as many people as they can about that topic, taking notes. Their goal is to find the person that either is the most different or the most the same, or both, depending on how much time you have. So I'm going to ask 5 people about fashion, 5 people about brands. So now I've had 5 interactive opinion conversations and with varying levels of offense taken and me practicing trying Oops, sorry. I can't believe you like that brand. I mean, let me try that again. What is it that makes you like that brand? You know? So they've had the polite way multiple times. And at the end of the multiple interactions, that if you want to, you can have them share, okay, Sam, who's most like you? Oh, well, since it's only a class of one, Teresa has the most similar fashion sense. Like, even though we wear completely different co clothes, there's no other option but to be the most similar. It's like, oh, that's a good reason, Sam. Next. So the point is to get multiple repetitions. You're not just talking to one partner about fashion. No, 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 no. You're talking to five partners about two topics. And then, by the way, they're asking you questions about two topics. So you get to be asked about 10 topics while you ask about two. Okay, mingling survey. And then the last one I'm going to give you guys today is the role play roulette, an example of interviews. So the way this activity works is every student, by the way, this one's a hit every time in all of my classes. I've never had this fail. You can change it from interviews to other types of role plays. I did it with, like shopping and event planning. There's different shops, there's different events you're planning, and you have to go talk to the different people to buy different things. Okay, but this is the interviews one. It's easier. So I get a card. Let's say I get the accountant card. That means that I'm trying to hire an accountant. So I write 5 questions that I want to ask people to determine if they're the right person for the job. So everybody does that. They all have different jobs. And then the 3-minute timer, or maybe this one will probably be a 6-minute timer. I ask my 5 questions and I take notes. They ask their 5 questions, they take notes. Timer runs out, switch. Okay, 20 minutes go by. You've now interviewed 3 people. And now you give feedback to the class about who you would hire. I would hire Teresa to be my accountant because no one else is applying. I really don't know if she's good with numbers. I hope she is, but I don't have a choice. Okay, so then in the feedback stage, you're able to also give student correction and stuff when they talk.
And a
This is
quick
this
question,
is great. Sorry.
would they know which job they're applying for? Or so would you say,
Yeah,
I'm
so
hiring for an
you'll tell
accountant?
the partner, yeah, I'm
Okay.
looking for an accountant. Yeah, yeah. Well, if you want to, I mean, as a teacher, you can decide. It could be a mystery job.
Mhm.
That'd be a whole nother level of teaching. But I would definitely, like say, hey, I'm trying to hire an accountant. So pretend like you're trying to be an accountant. Yeah. So that was the last drill I'm gonna give to you guys today. Quick question. Did Does this help with why aren't my students producing what I taught them?
I would say yes, because of those much more explicit phases of building up to those freer practice activities that are much shorter than the production phase. So you're
Mhm.
really kind of making it clear to them, because I think sometimes as well they see it on paper and then when they go into conversation, it's like, oh, I can talk about anything now. But so yeah, building it into those conversation freer practice. Yep, perfect.
Cool. And the viewers, since the viewers decided what question was meaningful to them, you can give me personal feedback later. If I helped you answer these, there are other ways to answer them, right? I mean, there's many reasons. Maybe you're just boring and that's why they're not producing what you taught them. But I hope that this helped you answer these questions today. That's all from me. Teresa, do we have any questions?
Nothing's come in. We've had a few people dropping in live. And I said, if anybody's got any questions, feel free to drop them. I'll also share, well, Sam, you're not so busy on LinkedIn at the moment.
I
You're
check it
not,
every day. I'm just not
okay.
posting because posting, believe it or not, like if you do it with AI, it's really easy. I don't do that. It can take easily an hour a day. So I'm actually there every day in messaging.
I'll share so people can connect with Sam on LinkedIn as well, and I'll share a link as well to the ESL tree to check out all those awesome resources. Yes,
Cool.
fantastic.
Thank you so
Cool.
much, Teresa.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Sam, for being the first speaker now that we're back after a little mini break here in the TEFL Development Hub.
Absolutely.
I'll be back again in 2 weeks' time with another fantastic session. Yep, check out ESL Tree, connect with Sam, drop any questions in the chat, and I'll see everyone again soon. Huge thanks again, Sam.
Awesome. Oh, thank you, Teresa.